Peaceful Times. Written, edited, and produced by Push Button Fling Things Productions. Narrated by Daniel Mahan. I was 20 years old. I had a tiny house shaped exactly like the Alamo. And yes, it was in Texas. It was really tiny. A small kitchen that became a living room, a tiny bedroom I never used, and a bathroom. It had thick, turquoise-colored carpets and wood-panel walls. For a 20-year-old guy having his first place without roommates or parents, it was the Taj Mahal. I loved it. It was mine.
Mine.
I was gainfully employed as the world's most hypocritical defensive driving instructor. I could go into tons of details about my inane wardrobe, my daily and nightly antics, but suffice to say I was 20 going on 15, and I had way too much money for someone who loved beer and marijuana as much as I did. That being said, I was still pretty responsible. I owned the school, so I ran everything. I had 3 cars in the driveway, my own little apartment, and lots of friends to pop by and keep me company. I was content. One day, my band, called Rhino Farmer, which basically means nose picker, had a day gig out at this big outdoor bar with volleyball courts. It was one of the funnest gigs ever. I think it was a fundraising thing, so there were lots of bands and free food. After our set, we had plenty of time to chill out and get stupid. Some friends of mine introduced me to a buddy of theirs named Dallas. He seemed like a good dude. He was very friendly, cracked jokes often, personable. I think we all played some drunk volleyball. That was a blast, and Dallas and I bonded a bit as teammates. I had a terrible inability to call it quits, though, which meant that when everyone else had had enough booze and smoke, I always wanted to keep going. Dallas was all too quick to oblige, and so we took off together. We went to hang out at this train bridge I frequented. It wasn't far from where we were, and it was an awesome place to chill out and smoke a few joints. It was dangerous, though. In fact, I had some pretty close calls at this bridge a few times before. It was near an old yet operational loading station, which meant trains went over it all the time. It had a 50-foot drop to jagged rocks, but there were large columns that you could sit on, dangle your feet off the edge, and contemplate life, if you lived through it. We had climbed to the top of the rusted steel bridge and were passing a joint back and forth. He gave me this sad sob story about losing his house and needing a job and a place to stay while he got back on his feet. I was such a bleeding heart that I wanted to help. I was so naive then, and it chills me to this day the binds I put myself in because I wanted to be the nicest guy ever. Sometimes I wonder if I was so charitable because I really was that nice, or if I just wanted everyone in the world to think that I was. Anyway, I told him I could get him a job, a bed to sleep on for a few weeks, and even a car to get to work. He lunged to hug me, almost knocking us both off the bridge, easily a 120-foot drop to the rocks below, but luckily we recovered. He then said something that I wish I had the ability to understand the gravity of when he said it. He confided to me through extremely red and glossy eyes that he was a vampire. Yeah. I laughed, of course. I thought he was being the same joker I'd known him to be after the last several hours that I'd gotten to know him. For real, he insisted. I couldn't tell if he was offended or laughing with me or what. By this point, I was so messed up I was just more interested in getting down off the bridge and getting home. My focus wasn't 100%. I really wish I could have understood that this guy was nuts and I was barking up the wrong tree. Good Samaritan or not, I was about to learn a very big lesson. I brought Dallas to my tiny Alamo house. I gave him the bedroom, and, as I preferred it, took the couch, which was, of course, in the living room and in front of the TV and the radio and all that good stuff. I spoke to a buddy of mine at the local IHOP, and he got Dallas a job as a cook. I gave him the keys to one of my cars and said, "This will get you to and from work until you can get something else." I had every intention of getting this guy back on his feet as fast as possible. He came and went for a couple weeks, leaving at daybreak to go to work, and Arriving back early evening after a long shift, he often retreated to his room or just sat on the couch behind me and my friends. I know, right? Observing and rarely interacting. He wasn't the talkative joker that I remembered from the bar, but whatever. He had a lot on his mind. I was just glad he was making progress, or so I thought. So, right at about the 2 weeks mark, I'm heading to work and I see him drive past. He's nowhere near the job he was supposed to be at. This made me raise my eyebrow. I felt my teeth clench in tandem with my hands on the steering wheel. What the hell? After work, I immediately went to the IHOP and talked to my buddy. Hey, man, wasn't Dallas supposed to work today? Oh, yeah, I've been meaning to thank you for that little gem. What? I inquired. Dude, that piece of shit quit after his third shift. He was worthless. No shit, I muttered. Man, I'm so sorry. He's a friend of some friends, and I was just trying to help the guy out. Don't sweat it, bud. We're cool. Goes to show you just never can tell about people, eh? He didn't know how right he was. When I got home, Dallas was there. I confronted him about the job, and he gave some bullshit answer that the conditions were harsh and blah, 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 acting like he'd just quit that day. I said, dude, you haven't been to work in weeks. Don't give me that bullshit. I was visibly angry now. I give you a place to stay, a car to drive, and a job, and this is how you thank me? You're a liar, man, and you need to leave right the fuck now. I don't know if he was entertaining the idea of retaliation or not, but I think he saw that I was serious. And while I wasn't the biggest guy in the world, I was a drummer and young with a built body. I don't think I would have been the sort of pushover that a coward like him would want to tango with, so after a short silence staring at each other, he conceded. He dropped his shoulders as he asked to borrow my phone and make a call. I handed it to him. Couldn't believe it when he exclaimed that someone was on the way and would be there in a few minutes? Wait a second, I thought this guy was down on his luck. Just more proof that this guy was full of it. Let me grab my stuff, he said. He didn't have much, so it didn't take long. He returned with a box over his shoulder. I stupidly didn't even take a glance. He offered me this knife, saying that he wanted me to have it as a thanks and a peace offering. It was actually pretty nice, and quite frankly, a sizable folding pocket knife. I wasn't having it, though. I didn't want this guy to have anything that could connect him to me. This relationship needed to be severed immediately and completely. I knew that much. Honestly, man, I don't want it. You keep your knife. Do me this favor instead. After you leave, don't ever come back. He concealed the blade back into his pocket as he nodded somewhat dejectedly. Just then, the car pulled up and he got inside. See you later, he exclaimed, perhaps a nervous attempt to save face. No, you won't, if you know what's good for you, I grudgingly retorted. His eyes dropped to his knees as he closed the door. The glass was darkly tinted and I couldn't see him anymore. The car drove off. I went back into the house and realized that a $100 pair of boots that I had just purchased were missing. The piece of shit got one more over on me. I wish I could say that was the last I heard of him, but sadly and tragically, it wasn't. About 2 months later, a close friend of mine that knew him as well said,
Dude, did you hear about Dallas?
No, I replied. Was I supposed to? She didn't blink. She walked off and came back with a newspaper. On the front was a picture of Dallas in handcuffs being escorted by several men in shirts and ties. He was wearing a prison jumpsuit. Murder rapist sentenced to life. My mouth dropped to the floor. The guy was weird, but murder rapist? It turns out Dallas had gotten in with some drug dealers out in Austin, Texas. He had his own apartment and apparently started going down fast mentally. A college student visiting from out of state was apparently biking and hiking the Greenbelt near Town Lake at night. He had raped and murdered the poor girl and hid her in a pile of leaves and branches. A passing hiker found her body a few days later. DNA tests proved that the skin under her nails was his. When they searched his apartment, all suspicions were totally confirmed. They found her belongings and her bike. The trial was quick. The idea that I lived with someone who was capable of something like that haunted me. The idea that at any time he could have come for me. And Who knows if he'd ever stood over me at night with his pocket knife in hand? I shudder to think about it. This event changed me for all time. Just one more thing to add to the severity and creep-out factor. It quickly raises to the top of my fear threshold and elicits shivers from deep within me when I consider the fact that the girl he killed was stabbed to death, presumably with the very knife he had tried to gift me 2 months earlier.